What's up, guys? How's everyone doing today? Hopefully you're doing well. It's Tuesday, August 11th, 10:15 a.m. here in Sydney, Australia. Wherever you are in the world, I say welcome. As you're checking in, if you're watching this live right now, just like the video as you tap in. We're going to take the questions. It's actually, look, depending on who you ask, there's not a lot of action this week, but there actually kind of is, and we're going to go over that. If you're not in our Discord, join our Discord. The link will stay pinned in the chat. It's a couple bucks a month. Two ways to join, either on YouTube, become a VIP, or Patreon, become a Patreon VIP. You get all of my bets. You see my action for the week, but more importantly, you gain access to our betting academy, our Discord. We stream all the fights, not just boxing, also MMA, college football starting soon, all pro sports. You know, there's channels that we have in there that I don't even go into. Tennis, golf, hockey. The boys are really intense about it. So we just celebrated 1 year of our Discord, and we just surpassed 600 VIPs. So to join, click the link that I'm going to keep pinned. Guys, there's fights that start in 4 hours. So I'm going to bring up those fights. Here's the schedule this week. It's going to sound crazy. We actually have a lot of fights. We have fights that start in 4 hours. They're going to be streaming it in our Discord. This is the Ryzen MMA Japanese fights. I'm probably not going to take action on it, but if you go into our MMA chat, we got Sloppy Guac Guac, who is all about it. We got Blue Bets, who is all about it. So Ryzen starts in a couple hours, and these guys are giving you all of their reads. They're giving you all of their tickets. So if you're an MMA guy, if you like betting on MMA, that's in a few hours. And then tomorrow in the Discord, we have Dana White's Contender Series. That's starting tomorrow. It's a new season. I bet on the Contender Series. I have my ticket in play. I shared it already in the Discord. And then we have also Michael Zarafa, his fight card tomorrow night. So in the next 30 hours, we have 3 fight cards. Ryzen MMA, which is going on today. Dana White Contender Series MMA, which is going on tomorrow at this time. The Matchroom card, which is Terramona's on there. Michael Zarafa's on there. Jazzy Parr's on there. That's going on tomorrow night. So that's already 3 cards if you're into boxing and MMA betting. If you're just into boxing, the schedule will be... And then, obviously, in the weekend, we have another UFC card. So there's 3 MMA cards this week, and I think there's 3 boxing cards. We know the Australian one was Zarafa, and then there's a Salita Promotions card with Clarissa Shields. We might get action on one more card, so just stay tuned. And if you're an insider, you guys should have 3 of my tickets. So the June, July, August quarterly parlay is a 12-legger. We just need one more leg for that to hit. Everything came through. We're just waiting on... The last fight is a heavyweight fight out of the UK. Moses Ituama versus Hrgovic. When Moses wins, that one hits. It's a plus 600. That's still live technically. I just released yesterday our newest quarterly parlay for the rest of August, September, and October. That's a bit of a long one, but it's I like it. You know, it's like plus 3,000. It's crazy. There's a lot of action coming up. That's live. And then I gave you guys my short parlay, little sneaky double your money on the money line. I might play a knockout prop this weekend. I might do Terramoto 1-2. It pays plus 150. We'll get into all that. Let's go. 3 minutes in. I feel like I covered a lot in the first 4 minutes. All right, Mike from Melbourne. Sup, Johnny? Looking to build a parlay for this week, but couldn't find any tape on Gemma. Gemma's fought before. Gemma's a girl from Queensland. I know Gemma. She's, the whole Queensland boxing domestic female circuit is, for the lack of better terms, everybody knows everybody, right? The Parr family, Jazzy's coming off a bad loss, right? I say it's bad because I think May Solomon surprised a lot of people with how tough she was. But Jazzy was winning every exchange, every round until she faded and she got hurt and then she just disappeared. So all of that being said, we saw how good May is. We just saw May in Egypt on the ring card against one of female boxing's best fighters. And May didn't win, but she held her own. So this girl, Gemma, John Wayne Parr's family, the gym, Boonshu, they wouldn't have put Jazzy in a precarious situation if if this fight wasn't going to go her way. So I'm very comfortable with throwing Jazzy on the parlay. Teramona knockout odds just yeah, I'm not playing 110. Yeah, the only edge we could do on Teramona because the knockout prop is unplayable. The money line is unplayable. I think I'm going to do 1-2 at plus 150. And then Lakeisha Woodbridge is an Aboriginal fighter. I know who she is. She comes from a good gym. She's really well coached. There's a lot of hype around her. You should feel everybody should have Lakeisha on your parlay if you're getting the options to bet Lakeisha. We got Tipkin. Yo, member for 4 months, baby. It's good to have you. This is our sometimes he moonlights as our resident JSB Discord live streamer when we're in a bind, whenever Kyle disappears. Sometimes he's our local Russian food blogger. So Tipkin wears many hats. It's been a pleasure having you part of the team, brother. And we appreciate you, especially when you get those live streams popping for us. And let's get that house. Let's go. Youngin, what's up, boy? Not much on, but we're gonna make it work. Cue the Denzel meme. We leaving here with something. 100%. What's up, Perth? Perth in the house. Skeezy. Youngin, you looking at contender series? Let's go. I got my contender play already rocking and rolling. It pays plus 200, I think. I've looked, but I don't know any of the fighters. So if I know a lot of you guys like Rahiki, and Rahiki's in a good spot. Rahiki was in the contender last year, and he was in a absolute firefight against Malumba. Malumba was having his way with Rahiki. Rahiki looked like he was going to get out of there, and then Rahiki pulled it out and then got Malumba out of there. Now Rahiki goes to the UFC, wins his first 2 fights. He's 2-0, and next month he's getting a fan-friendly firefight against Tommy Guns. So it just kind of shows you have a guy in Malumba who I'm taking it 68% return. So I like Malumba too. And then when you look statistically of guys who have been in the contender before and they lost and this is their second go round, or they've been in the contender before and they won, but Dana didn't give them a contract, the statistics, I think it's somewhere up over 60% of that returning fighter usually gets the W in their second fight. Maybe it's more like 70%. You should look into that. It's a high stat. Hassan is getting an absolute layup. If props drop, he'll be getting first round knockout. Let's go. Rodrigo in the house. What's up, Rods? Shout out to Pay De Niro. We're paying money out here and we're eating. Fat Boy Slim, Uncle Alert. Unks, we up. Unks, let's go. 44-year-old Unk right here, baby. 44. You got to stay active. That's the way. That's the secret to staying young. You got to stay active, boys. All you young bucks out there, let's go. Shout out to my boy Sugarcane too, boy. He finally came through to the strength dungeon. We had a little sneaky session. Hit the like. Yeah, let's like it. We're 8 minutes in. We got 50 of the boys in here. Only fight I got in my book is Clarissa Shields' fight. Hopefully there's more fights. Yeah, be patient, guys. They will come. Don't expect a lot. But there is action, if some of you boys are, we have, there's a big part of us who watch MMA as well. Boxing's our bread and butter. When it comes to my payroll, it's like, if I'm looking at my monthly payroll, it's like 80% of my pay, of my bank, 80%. The only sport in my lifetime that got invented while I was alive. Think about all of our favorite sports. All of our favorite sports, wherever you are in the world, I guarantee your favorite sport was already around when you were born. The only sport that I could think of, for me at least, that I was alive before it existed was MMA. 1993, I was 11. And so I got to watch the whole sport evolve. So I've been a day one guy. Because I got to be honest, betting and winning on UFC was way easier up until, I always say, I think it was probably the Reebok deal, 2015. Up until 2015, because the matchmaking was a lot different. And then once the Reebok deal happened, it seems that there became a lot of parity in the MMA matchmaking in the UFC, and it's very volatile. It's a volatile market to bet on. I don't ever go heavy, but I always have action on it. And one of our sharps in our MMA channel, Sloppy Gwack, put a 2-leg out for today's rise in MMA, and I'll pull the odds up. I might play it. I've gone with Jazz, Woodbridge, Troy, Mercado. Yeah. Okay, and so Skeezy added Abdul Malik and Orobai. I like it. What's up, Johnny? This week looking like a UFC only week for me. Guys, the boxing books will open up. Be patient. They'll open up, and if you're not getting Australia tomorrow, you're not going to get Australia. There's nothing we could do about it. All right, I'm gonna go. Let's check this out real quick. So, did you see Sloppy Glackog was saying one of the fights because yeah. So Mike, he was referring to Patchy Mix. So Patchy Mix missed weight by 3 kilos, and Ryzen MMA has a rule to where if you miss weight, you start the fight with a 2-point deduction. So it's like a 10-8 round before the fight even starts. So I think the only way Patchy Mix can win that fight. So let's say Patchy Mix wins the fight, like a split decision, he still loses. And so your bet loses. So if I were you, I wouldn't even bet the Patchy Mix fight unless you're taking him to lose. So this is the card that starts in this might be better actually. Minimize my head. This is the Rising card that starts in about 5 hours. So Mizuno versus Lee, and I'm going to pull up. So if you're in the Discord, guys, and you want action for tonight, and we're going to be streaming the Ryzen MMA in our Discord, and then go to the MMA channel real quick, and Sloppy Glack Glack. Okay, these are Blue Bets predictions. Blue Bets is another one of our sharps. He says he's going 3 units. So Blue Bets is saying he's taking Akamoto. Akamoto right now is $1.28. So this is a triple if you want action. Akamoto at $1.28. Edoc Polo at $1.43. And Sudario at $1.20. If you do that money line triple, it's plus 130. One of our MMA sharps, Blue Bets, is going 3 units on that bet. He also likes Joe Haramoto as his dog. Haramoto is plus 130. So those are 2 plays if you guys like it. I might tell him, I don't have an ego when it comes into this. You know what I'm saying? A lot. UFC is like in terms of MMA, the UFC is the only one I tend to bet on. But because Ryzen, I used to watch a lot of Japanese MMA as a kid, and today's card will give me an opportunity to kind of get reintroduced to Ryzen. But I have no problem tailing some of the guys in our channel, in our MMA channel, who I trust. And Blue Bets does breakdowns. Sloppy Glack will give him weekly reads. Ali TV will give his breakdowns. Boss Christo will give his breakdown. So I'll probably tail the triple and maybe the dog. And if I do, I'll put it in the Discord. I'm gonna pull up the box. So that's Ryzen. I'm gonna pull up boxing right now. So guys, this is my book. This is what we're getting right now. And then I'll catch up with the chat. There's 60 of you guys in here, which is great. Like the video for me. And then I'll show you the short parlay. So I do have a full unit, guys. So if you're a VIP and you know my parlay for the week, not the quarterly parlay, the one that's a 5-legger, I did go full on it. So similar to last week when I told you the biggest bet of my week last week was that 4-legger that we hit. This is similar, but because the odds are kind of weird this week, I had to add a 5th leg. I generally don't like doing that, but if you take Lacacia, let me clear this real quick. Okay, so if you take Lacacia on the money line, Jazz on the money line, Zarafa on the money line, Troy Isley on the money line, and then this is $1.87 because I have that rule that I'm only going to give out plus money tickets to our VIPs. I kind of had to break my rule of not using anything under $1.10. So we kind of have to use Mercado here. And now I placed this yesterday and I got plus 110. It's basically even. So if you're in Australia and you have sports bet, if you take these five, you're doubling your money. I have a full unit on this ticket, just so you know. That's up in the Patreon. I also could possibly be talked into, and you guys know I'm not the biggest Clarissa Shields fan. I think she's a bit insufferable. I don't like her. She's trolling, but she's talking about she could beat Raleigh again. She just did a press conference we shared in our Discord about her talking about she could beat up. Remember, she was talking she could beat up Thurman. So like she's a bit insufferable for me. And technically she has so many flaws as a puncher. Everything from her inaccuracy to her punch placement to not knowing how to feint, not setting shots up. Like, it's not that the reason why she doesn't have knockouts isn't because she doesn't have power. She doesn't have knockouts because she's not an accurate puncher and she wings and flings. If she was a bit more patient, set things up, disguised her power, she would get more knockouts. So she is fighting a 42-year-old Auntie K. Scott, another one of these Aussies who's going to be fit, who's going to be durable. She's 42. K. Scott's 5'10". Shields is 5'8". I just spent about an hour watching Auntie K. She does not move her head at all. K. Scott just literally leaves her head right there. I think this is a Salita Promotions card. You know damn well Clarissa Shields and her team, they want a knockout. You know what I'm saying? The thing is, they used to spar. They used to be sparring partners. So the smart money is going to be Shields on points at $1.40 because Shields doesn't knock anybody out. But for the sake of, I might entertain the knockout. If I make a play on that, I'll let you know. I could, something little, something to just talk shit to the TV too as the fight's going on, that sort of thing. Rodrigo, Johnny, did I mess up throwing and went from Contender Series? That's on you, brother. Look, you see my tickets, right? So that the way I group my tickets, it's just my strategy. I don't kind of like mixing and mingling, but I'm not gonna sit here and tell you messed it up. I think I might have went on a parlay anyway. You know what I'm saying? It's like I don't ever want to come out off as like me trying to tell you I know more than you. That's not what I'm trying to do here. But I do have Wint. Wint is $1.11. I have Wint on my Dana White Contender Series parlay that I'll share in the Discord that I've shared in the Discord. So I'm taking on the Dana White. This is my ticket on the Dana White. It's plus 141. This is my Contender Series ticket. So Kuhneman, Malumba, Hassan, and Anthony Wint. It's just that I've watched every season of the Contender Series, and a lot of the boys will know, and you probably know, the Contender Series is volatile, mate. We've seen when the odds have been wrong. This is kind of like betting almost on amateur MMA. So for that sake alone, I've seen $1.10s lose. $1.10 on the Contender Series is not $1.10 boxing, and we know that. That's why, if there would be hesitation, that would be my hesitation. But for some comfort, I do have Wint on a separate parlay. So, the thing is, if Wint loses, you lose that parlay, the mixed one. I lose my Contender Series one, but the ticket that you mixed it with that I've gone heavy on is still live. So this is part of the strategy where over time you guys learn where to pick and choose your battles regarding your payroll, regarding your bankroll, how heavy to go. I never go heavier on MMA ever. It's just too volatile. You know what I'm saying? So that's just kind of where I stand. Mosby's, I tailed your quarterly parlay, but didn't have Zarafa or Noak, so I replaced them with Mercado. Yeah, and there's a lot. And Mosby, you saw that. What is there? We got like 20 legs. I think our April, May, June quarterly parlay was a 11 legger. The June, July, August one that's about to hit is a 12-legger. And then it only makes sense, right? August, September, and October, we do a 19-legger. That's kind of what we do. We grow 11-leg, 12-leg, 19-leg. So when Moses wins, that'll be 22 money line quarterly parlay bets in a row. My record last year, if you were following along, was 67. It's kind of what propelled me into doing the live streams, because I was just posting my bet slips last March, not this March, but the March before. And if you are a nerd about it, I ended up hitting this was over, I think, 4 weeks, 67 money line picks in a row. And then that's when Muscles messaged me on. Muscles messaged me, I didn't know. And then TJ from Chilltown emailed me. And that's kind of what started this whole side of the game. So shout out to Chilltown. Shout out to Muscles. Can't wait for Islam Gary. What's your read on Islam Gary? It's Islam, right? That's we're not betting against Islam, are we? What's up, King? Maryland in the house. The Terrapins, holla. Number 9 or 6? Might be. I'll check. It's in my my trophy room. Evening boys on nights, so good chance to catch live. What's up, Harley? What's up, brother? How you doing? We up? Yes, sir. Let's go. 247. I like it. When do you think Terramona? Noah, this is the $1 million question. It's kind of a joke we have in our Discord. Is like, it's become a meme, guys. It's like, Sky Nicholson on points, death, taxes, Gabby Fundora by knockout, and Terramona $1.02 on the money line. It's kind of like become a joke in our. But then again, guys, the heavyweight division globally, when you're looking at how many guys, let's look, because BoxRec has how many registered heavyweights. How many registered pro heavyweights in the world are there? There's 1,635 pro heavyweights in the world right now. Terramona is ranked number 49. Okay. He is standing at 6'6", 28 years old, 11 wins, 11. He's just a risky proposition for anybody who is trying to climb the ladder in the heavyweight division. So it's not going to be the case of him picking easy fights. This is Matchroom who's building him up. And they're probably having a really tough time finding people with each fight to even put their hand up to take, a $2,000 check to get knocked out. Did you see the last matchmaking down here in Australia? Somebody should have went to prison. They put Terramona in there with an unk who was like 47, who I think was on the tools the night before. That's a phrase for the tradies out here. If you're on the tools a little bit too long, that means you shouldn't be working as a tradie into your like a certain age, right? So Terramona's been fighting guys who are still on the tools. And that knockout was absolutely dreadful to watch. It's just that he's still being positioned in the category of prospect, but he's been so dominant and how he fights is so aggressive. There aren't going to be prospects who are going to want to put their hand up. Even journeymen in the heavy. These aren't like lightweights. You don't see many heavyweight journeymen with. Think about it, guys. We've seen there's a guy who fought Mike Tyler on Mike Tyler's BoxRec. We were talking about it last week. Shout out to my boy Mike. And my point is this. So there's a journeyman in the UK named Jordan Granum. There's a journeyman in the UK named Jordan Granum. Jordan Granum is 15 and 197, right? 15 and 192. So Jordan is 15 wins, 192 losses, and 7 draws. You don't see journeymen like that in the heavyweight division because if you get knocked out, you can't fight. And heavyweights are going to have more power than a journeyman at, in the middleweight division. So it's tough, man. It's tough to find them fights. 100% boxing is my bread and butter. UFC still love betting on. What's up, Johnny Mags? What's up? You got any play? Yep, we covered it. I'm just catching up to the chat. I'm putting the ticket in the chat. Do you think George and Amanda? George and Amanda. Amanda Serrano and George Lidard. I don't know. Easy fights has an easy win. Who's George going up against? What's he put? He's fighting. He's putting. Doesn't he have the? Does he have the European or the Commonwealth? Somebody in Europe, obviously. I haven't looked. I'll have a check. Serrano's trying to break the knockout record. I don't think she's losing. Woodbridge, Bowen, Parr, Zarafa, Isley. There you go, Jay Sai. We're gonna find our plus money parlay boys. We're gonna like this is what we do. Like right now it's Tuesday. We're all at the dinner table. We're sitting at this massive table. What I like to envision is like the Last Supper table, so that big long one. And rather than food, we lay out our sports book and we lay out all the fights and options. I say it every week. We're picking. We should be able to pick and we're gonna find plus money, and we always do. Went definitely getting the knockout. Anthony Went, my boy. We used to train. Okay, there you go. So shout out. All right, let me pull that up. I don't know if I'm getting Dana White Contender Series props. Yeah. I remember last year during the Contender, my book wasn't giving me props. It might change by tomorrow, and if it does, I'll keep that in mind, King. They're saying Went by knockout. Oralbai is a beast. How you see this matchup going this weekend? Oralbai is fighting. Is he fighting Neil Magny? No, Magny's fighting Brahimaj. Jeremiah Wells. Dude, I mean, it wasn't that long ago. Jeremiah Wells, was an undefeated guy. He's old on record, but he's not that old regarding like tread on the tire. He's short, compact, athletic. Oralbai, we've seen some flaws in his game. He doesn't have a pristine record. He's tall, long. Wells is already 39. But Wells only has 15 pro fights. He's 39. He's coming off. He's 5-2 in the UFC. He lost the split to Max Griffin. That was a bit of a head scratcher. Shout out to Max. Yeah, and he lost to Carlston Harris, the Anaconda. Forgot about that. Carlston Harris is from somewhere that northern, isn't he northern South American country? That where was the Johnstown massacre? Was it Johnstown? What country was that? I think I could be wrong. I think that's where Carlston Harris is from. And Oralbai now, he's 16-2, 5'10", younger. I mean, Oralbai should win this. He lost to Rebecca on a split. Oralbai should win this. Wells is shorter. He's 39. His gas tank can't be the same as it was when he first broke in. The odds just aren't that good to bet on that. $1.11. You sound like the new movie with no Greek actors, but the Greeks had pancreation, but your content is still great. Thanks. Johnny, not sure about Malumba. Picky's absolutely live to get the knockout prop, but from what I understand, Bagliaroli and the Sanhagen can't. Yeah, I didn't like Pagliaroli's tape. I taped him last night. I like Malumba here. That athleticism, and being in somebody's camp really doesn't just because guys are in each other's camp doesn't move the needle for my bet. What I did was watch Pags' regional fight, and I rewatched Rahiki versus Malumba, and I was like, oh, I think Malumba's gonna storm him. Do you think Zarafa? No. Zarafa, this is a perfect classic feeder fight for Mick. But the thing about Mick is I talked about this yesterday. Mick Zarafa will steamroll the B-side. Zarafa always falls short when it's either like a 50-50 fight or, he has to be the nail and try to grit his way back. But when he's the front runner, he's going to steamroll this guy. I mean, this guy stepped up one time, got knocked out, regional inflated record, and Zarafa could punch too. Like when Zarafa knows he can't get hurt, he's so aggressive. That's the thing. Zarafa is fun to watch when he's cooking. When you put Zarafa in there as the A side against a guy he feels that he's gonna bully, Zarafa's cooking, dude. It's pretty funny to see. I've also created some parlays longer than Minute Bull. Rest in peace, Minute. The air up there. But the matchmakers keep feeding us a bunch of fights. I feel very, yeah. I love the schedule too, Barium. It's kind of like I always say, one of our group's best kept secrets, mate, is how our perspective is going into each fight week. We don't like it's not, guys, it's the 75 to 85 of you in here right now. It's not our job to critique matchmaking. It's not our job to critique even, skill set of fighters or the depth of a fight card. It's not our job. Our job is to make money off of that matchmaking. Our job is to use our boxing knowledge, our experience as bettors, our knowledge of the game to win money on a weekly basis. This is what we get paid to do, and this is what we do really, really well. So I agree with you, Barium. Yeah, 192 is insane. Only dude I know spending an hour on case. Yeah, I had, bro, because you know why, DJ? I had to do it. Shout out to Auntie K though. Auntie K is an Aussie. In the gym, I've watched her. I've watched her train before. I've watched her in a fight camp before. She's always going to come prepared. The reason why I had to do that is because behind the scenes, I'm flirting. If I jump on the Clarissa Shields knockout prop, which I hate to do and I never do, and you guys already know why. I wanted to make sure I was giving Kay Scott her just dues on not playing the Shields knockout prop for the sake of just playing it. But Kay gets hit a lot. Kay doesn't move her head. Kay's feet are a bit sluggish. This fight is a Salita promotion fight. Clarissa Shields wants big fights. She's been talking all this shit. She needs a knockout. Kay's already 42. So it does have me, and that's why I did. I wanted to see if like there was a path. And I think there is. It's just now I just have to pull the trigger on my own end to see if I'm actually going to play the knockout prop. So I'll let you know. Appreciate the super chat, big homie. We're laying out our food. That's how I look at it, right? We're laying out our food. Mercado at Tito. Guys, we're fans of Tito Mercado here, but he's a very flawed puncher. Like he's a very flawed for being so offensively minded. He's very flawed offensively. And I'm talking nothing about his, but he has power. And we've seen, he should stop this guy, though. This guy, we're talking about a guy who turned over, what, in 2006, I think, 2007. And I haven't even gone on the tape. This is just off the top of my head. I'm pretty sure Tito's fighting a guy who might have turned over in 2000, maybe even before that. But my point is, Tito comes, and this won't be the opponent to make him pay. But when you watch, Tito's great on the mic. He's marketable. I'm glad he's getting more features. I'm glad he's being more active. He just comes in with his chin high, his hands out here, and he's pressing his opponent, and he is throwing haymakers. There's nothing technical about it, but he could punch, and it's been working for him. I think he's probably going to stomp this guy, but we'll see if we can. I don't even think I'm getting the option to play it. Yeah, Tago. And this fight's at 140. I swear Emmanuel Tago's fucking has to be 40. He's 37. He's 37. He's been stopped once. 37 years old. I mean, hasn't been that active since the Garcia loss 4 years ago. He's fought twice. Where did he fight Ryan at? That was 4 years ago. 140. Is this a contract weight or this is at 140? You got to think Tito's coming in ultra aggressive. Tito probably the minute Tito thinks he's not going to get hurt, he could be he's aggressive, man. I'm not getting a prop on this, but once again with like limited action this week, and we talked about it last week, boys. If you're out there prop hunting and you're prop playing, just kind of navigate those waters accordingly. Don't bet the house on any prop. I always tend to go my heaviest on the money line, because in boxing it's just, I don't like using the word easier. It's a bit more predictable. The prop market could be a little bit volatile. If I did get an option to bet the prop market on that fight, knowing where Tito wants to go, where he's trending, his fight style, knowing how old Emmanuel is now, I would probably play Tito by knockout. I got Fabrizio, Wint, and Tom. Let's go. Plus 330. And Tom. I think I know who you mean. Salita's Promotions is putting a Teef. I'm not even getting a Teef on my parlay. What? They're putting a Teef's fight behind a paywall? On a record company's website? They did that for Troy's first fight. I mean, I'm not going to bash marketing. Like any sort of outside-the-box marketing from an entrepreneurial perspective, put our entrepreneurial hat on, that's kind of rad. From a fight fan perspective, that sucks. Exactly. It's fucking horrible. Alberton, we see potential in Alberton, but I mean, and he is kind of a regional star. You know what I'm saying? He's growing into that regional star. I know he's coached by Tom Yankello out of Pittsburgh. Yankello was Paul Spataforta's coach, and I think Overton is a Philly kid. So that like sort of Pennsylvania, if he's in Philly, probably New York, he probably has a following. And Salitas, didn't he, in his last walkout, the fight we watched, it was that awkward knockout. It was a bizarre, like, sort of delay stoppage. He either came out rapping or he came out with a rapper, and then he like designed all of he's very artsy. So I understand it from a marketing perspective. Like I said, from a fight fan perspective, yeah, in our Discord, somebody's gonna stream it. The boys in our you can't. I don't give a shit. There's no paywall too slick to get past our Discord streaming. Hopefully the feds ain't listening. Somebody will be streaming it. Did you see Barbosa? I did. I just watched it. I watched it on. Shout out to Ellie Sekback. Ellie Sekback had the full sparring. ABJ beat the piss out of him, but it's what to expect. The kid streaming with Broner, the little dude with Broner and his little dude, the kid they call, who is supposed to be a 19-1 boxer. I watch that kid's not a real that kid, inflated 19-1 record. He's he's like an Atlanta kid, I think, maybe DC, but that's the kid that Bobby kind of just older brothered. ABJ is a legit world level fighter. He beat the brakes off of Bobby. So it just kind of also shows you levels in boxing. You could have a kid who has a big following on a streaming platform and who's hiding behind a 19-1 record with a nice sort of marketable nickname. And the average person who doesn't know boxing might think that kid's a good boxer. But, somebody in the Discord last week, you guys brought him up. You're like, you don't know who that is? And I was like, and I watched this tape. Oh, this dude isn't good. And then you see the levels with Barboza. Johnny, any concerns with Zarafa's opponent? No, zero concerns. I have zero concerns. This fight, you got to understand the psychology of. Granted, Zarafa, the headbutt against Zoo, it didn't look good, but then this fight will look like Zarafa's fight before Zoo, that on one of the worst cards I think Australia's ever put on. I'm being a little bit sarcastic, but when Nikita fought that kid from, like, was he Spanish? And then Zarafa fought. They had these inflated records. I expect this to look like that. Hassan Wint are laughable showcase fights to get them some exposure. Johnny is right. MMA odds don't correlate with boxing odds in terms of probability, but in this rare case, okay, I trust you, bro. So if you guys are playing long, and I'm going to screenshot this, because you know what? Gaza, I'm going to do a mixed parlay this week. I haven't done one in a while. I will take a couple boxing and I'm going to mix it. And this, I know Wint and Hassan are in the contender tomorrow. So I actually already have them on a ticket. But if you guys are trying to find a plus money ticket and your boxing odds are only giving you so many fights, I do sign off on this comment because I do have Wint and Hassan on my Dana White ticket. Mercado by knockout. Don't kid yourself to anyone's. Yeah. You know, I agree. I agree with you. Did you pick Patch? No. No, don't. Nobody play Patchy Mix, boys. Patchy Mix is in a lose. For bettors, you can't win on a Patchy Mix fight. And shout out to our Discord because they broke it down perfectly in there, our MMA Sharps. Ryzen MMA has a rule to where if you miss weight, when round one starts, you are already down 2 points. It's a 2-point deduction system for missing weight, which is great. So Patchy Mix only wins if he wins by knockout. And I think your bet, look into this, I think your bet still loses. I think for bettors, it might be your way of winning a Patchy Mix fight is like super limited. So I would tread lightly. He's also injured. He talked about having an injured lower lumbar spine. So it's something to think about. And he hasn't looked good, dude. Wouldn't be surprised if Clarissa is more aggressive than usual after Tam's eye-catching performance. She's so egotistical. The press and praise Tam is getting. Yes. I mean, I know we don't like sort of ordaining fighters right off jump, but when you mix Tam Tebow's amateur experience, when you mix that performance she just put on against Auntie Des, when you take her technical style, her size, her aggressive backhand, how sharp she is, her physicality, I'm not going to say it, but I mean, they're probably, trying to expedite that matchup. She has all the belts. 6 foot big southpaw who could punch against Shields, who's 5'8", who's a bit wide open. That's probably going to be the fight to make. More risks. Oh, that's sick. Emmanuel Tago, my brother, sparred him in here in Washington to get him ready for this fight. Nice, bro. Emmanuel Tago, my brother, sparred him here in Washington to get him ready for his fight. He's pro. Is your one unit equal to 1% of your total bankroll? Then does that change as you profit each week? No. So what I do is I do my bankroll month to month. So even though we don't have seasons in boxing, which is the greatest sport on earth, I break my bankroll up into 12 seasons. So I accept specific amount for this 4-week gap, right? And then I have the schedule written out. And then I have everything on a spreadsheet. So that's kind of how I roll. Does my bankroll, I never take from my account more than what I deposit each month. Now, if you remember 4 weeks ago, let's say last week, 3 weeks before that, we literally hit everything 3 weeks in a row. And then, to say what I want to say, by the end of each month, if we had a month like we had in July when we hit everything in the first week, everything in the second week, of course my one unit will change because that's risk versus reward. That's a decision you guys have to make though. That comes down to intuitiveness. That comes down to the streak you're on. That comes down to your how much money you have. Are you betting for entertainment? A lot of it depends. There's a lot of variables. So it's tough for me to give you a cut and dry answer when the variability of the question is so diverse. You know what I'm saying? I don't bet to get rich. Like my goal, I'm a realist and I'm logical about it. I do treat it though as another business. So I am controlling my bankroll and I'm controlling my actions, my style of betting. If you're hanging around long enough, you would know that I'm a dog hunter. I like finding plus 100 to plus 200 dogs on the boxing end. And then I like adding, 3 to 4 leg chalk parlays to get us plus money to double our money. And that's kind of my style. So I'm never going to do bets that aren't at least doubling my money. And that way I could still be risk adverse, but take a little bit of risk. And that's kind of how I deal. So I know that, I hit a moonshot parlay once in June, which was insane. But that doesn't happen all the time, and I don't even put those bets in. I've only probably done that 3 times ever. So it's just not my style to do that. And I'm not a prop better. I'm not an over and under guy. I'm not a guy to put $10,000 to get 30% return. I know some guys do that, and I'm not trying to critique anyone's style. We all have our own styles. You know what mine is. And of course, as the month progresses and I'm up, my unit of measurement will 100% change, especially if I'm on a heater. So what could look like, 800 here, it could be 2,000 3 weeks from there, based on the matchup and based on my streak. So, but I'll never tab. If it goes from 800 to 2,000, I'm never taking the 1,200 surplus from my bank account. You see what I'm saying? And so I should also mention, if you're struggling with saving, then you need to have better margins around. It's why I always say, if you're up, pay a bill. A lot of times guys struggle with, hey man, I hit this, but then I put it all on this and I'm down. And you're constantly in this cycle of never winning. You're constantly in this cycle of never withdrawing. You're constantly in this cycle of losing. So I always call it make it real. To make your winnings real, if you're up a couple stacks and it can pay your rent or pay your mortgage, withdraw that shit. You know what I'm saying? Withdraw it and then start over and rebuild. So there's just a lot of variables to this. Morning, Johnny. Hope you're well. What's the plays look like for Aussie Matchroom? I like the A sides, man. I think the Aussie Matchroom card is going to be a lot of feeder fights. I like Jasmine Parr. I like Lakeisha on the money line. I like Zarafa. I'm probably going to play Terramona 1-2. Let's talk about that real quick. So this is a prop, boys, that I really like. And I'd be lying if I told you I don't already have this play. I just haven't shared it yet. So I'm going to share it right now. And I'm just going to keep this one public because it's a bit of a, it's not really in my style. You know what I'm saying? So I do have action on this bet. So plus 125. So, Terramona is unplayable on the money line right now. He's unplayable by knockout at $1.10. So it's kind of like, how do we make it playable? I want to watch it. He's fighting Savage. And I hate just kind of disregarding opponents, but we have to know what this is. We know how Eddie operates. We know how Eddie likes to move guys that he feels has either A, the potential to be a star, or B, the potential to be a champion, especially at heavyweight. The heavyweight division's a bit different because think about how old the division is right now, and there's kind of like new blood coming through. The end of the month, we're going to see one of the products of that new blood is Moses Ituama. And Terramona is in his late 20s now. That being said, the money line's unplayable. The knockout prop's unplayable. I'm going to roll the dice. I'll probably do a quarter unit. I did a quarter unit on the knockout 1-2 at plus 125. Do you think Nikita should have an easy win, or will he have? Look, I think it's going to be tricky. He's fighting a guy named Ben Money. I know if you're in America, we pronounce it Ben Mahoney, but Aussies pronounce it Ben Money. It drives me absolutely insane. There might not be a lot of things that get under my skin in life than how the Aussies pronounce Mahoney. It's Mahoney. You know how the Aussies pronounce it? Mahny. Money. It drives me fucking insane. I don't know why it pisses me off. That's the most angry you'll ever see me. It's Mahoney. Anyway, he's a slickster, dude. Lifelong combat sports athlete. He was a pro kickboxer. So, he's going to have a good fight IQ. He knows how to move around the ring. Watch his last fight, a fight in which, he's going to be a guy who's going to, use the entire ring, be slick, going to try to counter Nikita. I think it'll take Nikita a few rounds to figure Ben's timing out, figure his footwork out. I think Nikita, people don't give him enough credit for having as much athleticism as he does. Nikita's a better athlete than his brother Tim. Nikita has better defense, especially as we're watching him evolve and move up the ladder. That last version of Nikita, this is a kid now who's not just going to stand in the pocket and, take one to give one. He's now slipping off the midline. He's moving his head. He's coming in and out. He's stepping with his lead foot on the outside. And so, he's more mobile than his brother, better defense than his brother. And at this stage of the game, all things considered, I think he's actually evolving. So when we get there, which is coming up soon, I wouldn't be shocked if the fight goes the distance. I wouldn't. I think Nikita will win the fight. I've been wrestling with the idea which one I would be more shocked with. Nikita on points or Nikita by knockout. I think I would be more shocked if Nikita knocked Ben out. Ben's good, man. Ben's slick. Ben's a real veteran. He's confident in there. This is a guy who feels that he's being overlooked. He's in the top 15 globally, I think, in the IBF. And he's been in there with real guys. This is a guy who went viral in 2020 for breaking Benny Hussein's jaw with a counter. So, and we know Hussein. We know how tough he is. Hussein's a kid who was coming in as a dog, a 2-1 underdog in his last fight, and upset the odds and talked his shit. And so Ben Monty could box, man. He's going to be tricky. He's not going to just stand there and let Nikita tee off on him. Carolyn Dubois, do you think she'll have any trouble? We'll get there when we get there. What's up, Angel? There's levels, props. Bobby Green getting yeah. Okay. Did you guys hear what Arnold said after though? Arnold said he's going to do MMA with him. Arnold, from what I heard, Arnold knows how to grapple. He knows how to wrestle. He said he grew up wrestling. So, and when you look at Bobby's MMA game is literally a stand-up. He'll grapple. He knows how to grapple. He's well-rounded. But when you look at Bobby cooking, especially when he was younger, it's going to be on the feet with his hands. That slickster style. And so if Arnold actually knows how to defend the take, I couldn't imagine Bobby shooting. With a boxer, you probably would see Bobby going leg kicks, calf kicks, and then getting Arnold to back up and maybe freeze him up. I'd be shocked if Barboza actually steps in the octagon and does MMA with him. But on the other hand, I wouldn't be. Barboza's one of my favorite boxers. We know he's mean as hell. We know he's game as hell. And if he wasn't capping when he said that he grew up wrestling, that means that he could defend a takedown. He knows how to shoot for a single. He knows how to, this is if he's being real about that. He should know how to scramble if he knows how to wrestle. So it could be interesting. But that's Bobby's world, dude. Bobby Green would be like, you can't expect a boxer to go into that. And this is why boxers don't call out MMA fighters. People are like, why don't boxers ever call it when they saw Bobby getting cooked? Well, at least Bobby got in there. Yeah, it's because MMA fighters always call out boxers. Because, guys, I tell this to new clients all the time. I tell this to anybody who wants to listen. I'm going to tell you. You know who the most ego-driven people in the world are? Men. Do you know how many young, especially, and obviously I'm a fucking man, right? Dude, I'm 44 now. Could you imagine me when I was 21? I was a freaking just arrogant, egotistical, ignorant dick, right? But I was an athlete, and I actually was trained to box, so I knew how to box. What I'm saying, though, is you have no idea in my own personal life's journey how many guys I meet, even to today, who say they know how to box or say they know how to fight, and they've never trained in anything. And I'm only speaking from my experience as a coach. Guys would come up to me at the gym. I used to work at a corporate gym, non-boxing gym, but I was the boxing guy. And then, I'm at parties with friends and somebody will introduce me as Johnny coaches boxing, that sort of thing. And then guys will say, hey, where's your gym at? And then I give them directions and then we spar. And you guys have no idea. I could tell you over at least 30 times in just that situation how shocked guys are when they realize they can't fight. And I look at them as like, bro, don't be going around telling people you could box because you might run into a boxer. I was like, you've never boxed before. How do you expect to know how to box? So it's a totally different thing. And, MMA fighters saying that is absolutely insane. And then the fan bases who say, why don't boxers call it? Because, bitch, we don't kick. We don't shoot for takedowns. We don't wrestle. We don't go to the ground. Why would I want to do all that? You know what I'm saying? So that's kind of my take on that. Aren't mixed parlay mixed Jerry is Aloy Yumba a lock? Aloy, I've been watching his training. Please, I need some future parlay. Skip, please. I need you. They're up. I posted it, yeah, yo. Did you hear the New Zealand guy complaining on the Nika stream? Sounded like we were hitching Root off a stream without him. What happened? Did you hear the New Zealand guy complaining on the Nika stream? Sounded like we were hitching a Root off. No. Go. What are you talking? Message me, Mike. Let's fucking go. Keen for the week. Who is Patchy Mix? You gotta do your MMA toxic. MMA. Patchy Mix. Yeah, he thought he was gonna take over the UFC. Well, Zach, I appreciate you saying that. I threw Hassan. Perfect. The boys are sharing. Thoughts on Barral Santinian, top ranked Hassan Barral. Is that fight official? Abbas Barral. We'll get there when we get there. Guys, I only have so much room in my memory. I focus week to week. You know what I'm saying? So for all you boys, and it's, you know, if I'm just I'm not just disregarding your comment. We got fights that start in 3 hours in Japan. We got Australia tomorrow. So I'm literally in this zone. It's hard for me to look past and kind of debate Jalen, Trayshawn. I don't know, guys, man. Trayshawn Gore, why do we just all of a sudden think Trayshawn Gore, like, you guys think he's going to beat? He's fighting a real veteran, dude, who's well-trained, wealth of experience, has fought at the world level. Or people just thinking, I'll pull up the odds. Dude, Vicente Luque at plus money is going to feed families, boy. Unless you guys know something I don't, there is no way Gore beats Luque. Dude, Vicente Luque has been flirting around the top, either in the top 15 or top 10 for like a decade, dude. He's aggressive. He could punch. He could grapple. He has good subs. Like Trayshawn Gore is a kid that we watched on the Ultimate Fighter house who didn't even win the house. And, you know, I know that MMA fans and MMA betting is a bit fickle. You know, they might be trending in opposite directions. But knowing where Luque comes from, knowing how confident he is, knowing the gym he's trained at for over a decade, I mean, is he injured? Like, this line shocks me. Somebody enlighten me. How's it going, Johnny? You're going heavy on that fight? Yeah, I am. It's only giving me 70%. Yeah, well, Nathan, it's all we got this week. And a 70% return is a great return. So that is my biggest bet of the week. And I'm fortunate I got, what, $1 plus 105. If the odds have shifted in such a way that you're only getting a 70% return, it doesn't change anything. All it's going to change is how much you get back. You're still going to bring 70% back with you. Do you know what I'm saying? You definitely don't want to leave 70% on the table. Also, we'd be making, yes, I made my contender series parlay so far, and I'm sharing it in the Discord after this. Hey, Johnny, love your content. I was just curious to get your opinion on Cortez versus Maxayo. Interesting fight, man. Zuffa, Maxayo seems like he's kind of had a rebirth. We saw him. I don't know how much credence you want to put into that knockout. What was it? McCrory and Cortez. I haven't looked at the odds. It's an interesting fight. Maxayo is going to be a guy who we know about his fan base. Whenever you come from the Philippines, especially if you're a puncher, you can always get those comparisons. And I think a confident Mark Maxayo is a dangerous Mark Maxayo. So I don't know what the odds are yet, but we'll cross that bridge. Do you think Troy? Well, I don't think so, man. Troy's one of these guys who's well-rounded. He can't really punch, but you know, he's athletic, he's fast, he's always going to be fit. I know that he fought Joe Hicks in the amateurs, and he did go 1-3 in the amateurs. I don't put any credence into any of that, by the way, but I know in my Discord, guys were trying to sell me on Hicks to beat Isley. I don't see it. I think this is a great matchup for Troy. I think Troy on points is the move. What about McMahon? Do you have multiple screens on at once? Yes. Jay, you know that, bro. Right now, I have 3 on right now. So I have this one, this one, this one, and then I got this one here. So I have 4. We're crazy out here, boys. What's up with Francisco? Bro, this is crazy. I'm everybody just thinks Yo-Yo is gonna dog walk. I always like playing as a better. You gotta play both. You gotta be the devil's advocate as a better. I think it's a fool's game as a better to just totally disregard an opponent. Like Veron, what is he? 17-1, 10 knockouts. He has 1 draw. He's a 6'1" orthodox fighter. I mean, he lost to Brandon Adams in 2024. We've seen him on. We watched him beat Roman Villa. We watched him beat Vlad. We watched him beat Raul Garcia. The draw versus Shahai Tucker. People love Yo-Yo, but I got to be honest with you. And I'm just being real. He's 10-0 with 9 knockouts. I'm going to say it. I thought that, Terrell Gausha was getting hit a lot. He did become the first guy to stop Terrell Gausha. I thought that was a horrible stoppage. It looked like to me Terrell Gausha was, doing a decent enough game plan in terms of, finding his range, not punching with the puncher early on, taking a lot of shots on his gloves, wasn't getting hit clean too much. And what you were seeing is the game plan was, all right, let's pull Yo-Yo into the mid to late rounds, and let's see if we could use our veteran savviness, our Olympic pedigree, our pro experience into making him uncomfortable. And let's see if this big puncher, this big, athletic Cuban starts to fade, which we've seen. That to me looked like the game plan, how it was playing out. So when it got stopped, man, I was like, damn, I wish they would have let that go. Because some of the things about Yo-Yo that I'm still not convinced on is how he reacts when he gets dragged in. We saw the Kyron Davis fight went 10 rounds. I'm looking at his box rec right now. He went 10 with Kyron. After the Kyron Davis fight, he takes a stay busy fight, knocked the guy out in 1 round. Veron is 6'1". I don't know what the odds are. And I know, shout out to Coach Bermudez. Coach Bermudez is in our Discord. He's Yo-Yo's coach. And Yo-Yo's a beast. People are ordaining Yo-Yo as like the next long-standing middleweight champion. For me, I need to see more. I'm not saying I'm taking Veron, but I'm at least going to, at least debate Veron's path to victory without just saying Yo-Yo's going to dominate him. Veron's tall, long, lengthy. He could pose some issues, man. And so, I was hoping to get some of these answers against Gausha, but I felt like maybe I got to rewatch it. Maybe I'm wrong. I'm sure you guys will let me know if I'm off base on the Gausha fight getting stopped too soon. But from what I remember, he was getting hit, but nothing really was landing clean, and he wasn't looking hurt. He wasn't really punching a lot, but sometimes when you have an older guy who is trying to figure out a big puncher, you're not going to take those risks early on in punching with the young puncher. You know what I mean? So you see this as part of game plans. Win versus Sun tomorrow night on Dana. I parlay. All right, boys, we got some action. Let's go. 2 sets. Hey, Johnny, I never thanked you, but I just want to let you know right now, thanks for all the info you give us. Thank you, man. I appreciate it. This is my passion, if you couldn't tell. As a young buck, a 7-year-old, I come from an old steel town in Northeast Ohio. My dad took me to my first boxing gym as a 7-year-old. So best decision I ever made was, if you Google my name, I have a pretty long social media footprint, but I was doing a documentary in 2020 in Cyprus and Myanmar on an ancient martial art. And the guy who invested in my documentary, he was kind of like sort of like a mentor of mine, entrepreneur, self-made millionaire, tech guy. And he was like, Johnny, man, I watch all your podcasts. I watch all your content. And at the time I was doing MMA business. I was interviewing writers. He was like, bro, you need to just focus on boxing. He was like, you need to just make boxing content. That was in 2019, 2020. It took me until 2024 to listen to him. So in 2023, I had, I think, 700 YouTube subscribers. And in 2024, I stopped doing everything except boxing. And now we're close to 30,000 and just boxing. So appreciate you noticing that. It's just been my lifelong passion. I love this game. Does Jazzy Parr get the win? She gets the win, but it's a good question considering how I'm never confident as a bettor betting on a fighter in their next fight in which the last performance she psychologically quit on herself. So keep that in mind. But I'm shoulder to shoulder with this bet. I feel her opponent was brought in for a reason. I know I know John Wayne Parr, her dad, Muay Thai legend. I know the gym really well, Boon Chu up in the Sunshine Coast. And they went and the mom was a world champion kickboxer. Shout out to Angie Fernandez. And so, like, the family would not have taken this fight for Jazzy if it wasn't favorable. And the girl that she's going up against is kind of a girl that, when you look at her box rec, when you look at the stylistic matchup, Jazzy should be able to front run. Jazzy was front running against May. It's just that she underestimated May's durability and she got caught and then she disappeared. So it bothers me slightly, but not enough to not put her on a ticket. Bobby and Arnold wrestled right up. Did they? I didn't know this. Okay. I guess Arnold was lying. I guess we got our answer. All week last week, I was like, I don't see a dog. I don't think there's going to be an underdog on the Irish card. I don't see a dog on any of these cards. And then the very last fight was Sugar Neeks versus Dina. And I took Sugar at, slight favorite. And afterwards, I was like, well, now we knew who our dog was. And similar to this, well, now we know that Arnold can't wrestle. Well, if he got submitted, that's jiu-jitsu. It's a bit different. There aren't, can't really expect him to nose beat Johnny Irene Arnold. That's the reason I switched over to Teo. You guys know I've been a fan of Arnold for a while. I don't know how many people on YouTube picked Arnold to beat Jack. I did. I don't know how many people picked Arnold to beat Kenny. I know our whole group did. By the time Arnold fought Kenny, our community was already kind of enriched. I kind of had your trust by then. But he's not a big puncher, but he fights like he's a big puncher, and he has great timing. He doesn't have the fastest hands, but he's good with his tools and he's good with what he has. And more than anything, man, that kid will fight you, Barbosa. And Teo, when I first watched it, I think I scored it 8-4. It was an odd card. It was the card that Raleigh beat Ryan. There was no crowd. It was in Times Square. I think people underestimate the importance of having energy for fights. You need a crowd matters, man. Like, I couldn't imagine fighting not in front of a crowd, dude. Especially when you're like a world champion, world level guy, when you're used to you get something from that. So we saw that whole card was flat. Everything from Devin versus Ramirez to Arnold versus Teo. And Teo's performance probably was the best one on that card. And it still wasn't like, I'm torn on Teo versus Raleigh, boys. I'm torn. When we look at Teo's last stoppage with 2022 against Pedro Campa, it was a while ago. 4 years ago is almost a half of a decade ago. And then Teo had all these kind of like, I know people were like, everything that we could say negative about Raleigh, we're picking and choosing. If we were dissecting Raleigh, there are equal amounts that you could say negative about Teo. And my issue with taking Lopez is the "what have you done for me lately" question. And if we had to pick who would win that argument, Raleigh would obviously win the "what have you done for me lately" argument, all things considered, his last outing and him being the champion of 47, and Teo getting beat from pillar to post in his last fight and never fighting at 147 before. So I'm still kind of torn, man. I don't know where I'm going to go on that one. Teofimo, in a tough fight against Steve Claggett down in Florida, in which he was a massive favorite, in a tough fight against Sandor Martin, in a fight where some people thought Martin probably did enough to win. He looks good against Josh Taylor, but that was a shell of himself, Josh Taylor. But Teo did look good in that fight. And then, the Arnold Barbosa Jr. win is probably the one, he looked good. But he's still... My issues with taking Lopez is psychological. It obviously... I'm not going to debate anybody and try to prove to them that Raleigh is the more skilled guy. All you have to do is watch, Teofimo speed, Teofimo athleticism, Teofimo skills, but that doesn't always win a boxing match. I think Raleigh has really underestimated, people really undervalue his timing. Raleigh has a good base. Raleigh has a strong foundation. I always talk about the importance of his judoku background. This was a nationally, credited American judoku. You know what I mean? That matters. I know it's not boxing, but coming from that background as an amateur, that's going to tell me that the kid has a strong base, strong core, especially in the pocket, knowing how to, position himself, and then, his power. So there's questions on both sides. It's going to be fun to break the fight down. It's going to be fun to watch the comment section all week. It's going to divide the Discord, which is great. These are always fights that are great for our community. It helps grow the community, whichever side you're on. Last week, I was more convinced I was going to take Raleigh. As we're getting closer and closer, it's getting more sort of to the middle for me, and I still haven't made my mind up yet. It's just hard. Like Teos pops in the corner. Where's your power, mate? Like in the 10th round. Like what a thing to say. What happened to your power? Did you leave your power at home? Like meanwhile, ShakurStevenson's beating the dog piss out of your son, and that's what you tell him. And then like, I don't know. There's a lot of questions for me, but same thing. Raleigh, the performance against Barossa, that the phantom stoppage. He gets stopped against Pitbull. The fight against Tank. But it should be said though, recency. Some people say it's recency bias, but you must ask yourself, what have you done for me lately? And I think that matters. So Luque's chin's gone. Okay, somebody answered it for me now. Luque had subdural hematoma, year-long medical. Perfect. Thank you. The chat coming through is legitimate. Although he was later cleared by independent neurologist and a neurosurgeon. Okay, I have my answer now. So we're on. We need Terramona versus Dempsey or Gratch. Bro, no, Mutant. Terramona would put Brandon Gratch. Terramona versus any of those guys you just... No, mate. I do not want to see him versus Dempsey McKean. Maybe... you know what? I take it back, Mutant. Dempsey McKean would probably be... He would still be against Dempsey McKean. Terramona would probably still be a 10-1 favorite. I guess that's what you got to do with him from here on out. But Brandon Gratch, man, shout out to Brandon Gratch, the Newcastle Bull. But Gratch is on the undercard tomorrow. Isn't that so? If you watch the undercard of Zoo versus Spence, Brandon Gratch fought a rapper from Melbourne. Forget his name. The kid from Melbourne's a rapper. Social media following. He has an interesting name. I'm sure the chat will let me know it. It went the distance. It was a slugfest. They're actually having a rematch. Both Brandon and his opponent took the fight on like 14 hours notice. So Brandon won the fight. And the rematch is tomorrow. What was his name? Peli or something July? Johnny, thoughts on Fluffy versus RoboCop? I'm guys. I still have PTSD from Fluffy. I was full transparency. I got the receipts to prove it. I did pick Strickland to beat Hamzat. So I picked Strickland to beat Chimaev. That was my pick. But I did pick Fluffy to beat Strickland. And that one, like to see how dominant Fluffy had been, and then how his game totally got neutralized against Strickland, it told me like, damn, dude, there really must be something there with like how to deal with Strickland's awkward pressure. That vertical style, just hands here, trying to just tap with that, weird kicks. And, Fluffy he didn't deal with that style well at all, dude. It kind of reminded me when Sean fought Abus Magomedov. Abus Magomedov was a guy at one time at the PFL who was like in the top 5 in the world at middleweight. And he fought for the $1 million prize, and my boy Handguns Taylor knocked him out in the first minute. Shout out to Lewis Taylor. Lewis Taylor is a Chicago MMA legend. He won one of the first ever PFL $1 million tournaments. He is also Bilal Muhammad's coach. And great guy, dude. Shout out to Lewis. I used to podcast with him all the time. But Abus Magomedov then comes over to the UFC with all, hype. I think Abus might have fought again the following year and might have won the tournament. I'm not sure. But I think the PFL removed the middleweight division from the tournament the following year. Maybe that's why Abus came over. But he was the favorite against Strickland, and Strickland just negated his stand up, pressured him, and Magomedov just gassed out, and Strickland just dog walked him. So I've seen Sean do this before to guys. I just didn't think he was going to do it to Fluffy, and he did. And I generally don't like betting on fights after I lost a fight in which the read was totally off, kind of like the Simpson Troy Williamson thing. But RoboCop, he likes to strike, but this is a guy who has a black belt in jiu-jitsu. Fluffy, we know, is a guy who tends to weaponize his cardio, uses wrestling and grappling. He likes to, obviously, we see if he's not the hammer, if he's not on the front foot, if you put him on the back foot, he's not really at his best. But then again, we saw Fluffy beat the jiu-jitsu world champion a couple years ago in Rodolfo Vieira. Rodolfo Vieira was coming off like the BJJ Mundials, one of the best, coming into the UFC of his era. And Fluffy was like a 4-1 dog in that fight, and Fluffy dealt with him pretty convincingly. So, but Vieira's striking wasn't, I don't know about that fight. Well, I gave you my thoughts. I don't know who I'm going to pick. Do you think Gary stands a chance? I feel with a 6-year youth advantage, 5 inches of height, and some reach, he can squeeze out a decision. His takedown defense is 80%. I know I sound crazy. Ian Gary versus Islam. It's just hard for me to think about betting against Islam, but I'll have a think about it. RoboCop beats Fluffy. Where did you show your MMA parlay? I have it. I'm going to post it. The Dana White Contender Series picks, Nathan. I posted it yesterday in our Discord, but I'll repost it after this, so you don't have to scroll. Trey Gore as a favorite scares the same. He went same, bro. Plus 400 versus Begoyev to now being plus 160. Yeah, okay. Say there's something, sometimes in MMA, because we don't have in MMA, we don't have a protect the O sort of thing. So in MMA, when you go on this journey with fighters, especially if you're as old as me, Contender Series or the Ultimate Fighter House, so you see like their body of work, and sometimes as a bettor, you kind of have these mental scars. Because Trayshawn Gore was a guy out of, I think, North Carolina or South Carolina going into the house. He might have only had 3 or 4 pro fights. And he was the favorite on that season. That was a season with Brian Battle. And, I've seen him be in spots as the favorite, get featured and lose. And then I've seen him claw his way back and win. And, Luque the same, man. Luke, just look at the resumes. Luque has been at the world level for a long time. And you'd like to think that even though the boys said the medical clearance is a bit of an issue and the Hemadura thing is a real issue, but you'd have to think that he wouldn't take this fight if he wasn't healthy. Because Trayshawn could punch, but Luque could punch. So I don't know. Maybe it's a no bet. How do I search your post? Go to MMA. So go in the MMA chat. That's the one you're looking for. Go up in the search bar and just type in my name and you'll see my posts. Heard that too, Christos. Christos is a beast. Luque versus Gore career trajectory is baked into the line heavy. Gore is sober now and look career, but these are valid points. Shout out to the Daily Dig. And this is why MMA betting, boys, is so volatile, though. We don't get the stresses of this sort of, and these are spot on. We have to think about the lines. We have to think about, the career. We think about all that good stuff in boxing, but it's not as compact and condensed. There's not as much parity in boxing matchups as there is in the UFC. You know what I'm saying? There's no protecting guys in the UFC. Dana is historically known for feeding his top young prospects to veterans. I bring it up all the time. I'm bringing out any chance I get because I'm still pissed off at how they treated my boy Yair. Yair Rodriguez versus Frankie Edgar is the perfect microcosm to explain what I'm talking about. Dana don't give a shit about your young potential. about your young star potential. Oh, you think you're going to be a star in this organization? And you're a pretty striker with a high knockout to win ratio with a country following you? All right, 23-year-old young man Yair, let me give you a multi-divisional grappling wrestling stud in Frankie Edgar to see if your striking could offset. Oh, yeah, also that wrestling two-division former champion has a gas tank for days. Let's see if your striking and your star power will hold this guy. In my opinion, that beatdown he gave him, we never got to see Yair at his full potential, and I think it was exactly that fight. Johnny, I think you're right about Luque. It's a recent basis stuff floating all over MMA community. It's a bad narrative that got debunked. If you watch his last fight against Kelvin G, sorry, I'm late. No, it's all good. What's up, Underdog Matt? We appreciate you're here. I'm sorry that I'm like, the chat's so big, guys. We used to have 10 people in our chat, and so I used to be able to answer everybody's questions, but we peaked at like 100. There's 80 of you still in here. We're almost 90 minutes in. I'm gonna try to get to all these questions. I don't have a client downstairs for 90 minutes, so I got some time. I really like Jillian. Bro, this is another thing I was talking about. People are acting like Mackenzie Dern is going to steamroll Jillian Robertson. Dude, Jillian Robertson, they have two different skill sets, but on paper they look the same. We know about Mackenzie Dern's Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu credentials. The thing about Mackenzie, though, man, her striking is so wild and off balance. She uses her chaotic striking style to set up her BJJ. The thing about Jillian, not only has she been mentored by Dean Thomas, a great UFC fighter in his own right, with a great mind for Jillian's specific skill set. Jillian's skill set is going to be wrestling, grappling heavy, controlling you on the ground, and manipulating positions on the ground. And so that, I'm tempted to take Jillian, and Jillian hasn't lost in a few years. She's on a roll. She's streaking. I think people are kind of overlooking her in this fight. Was doing tape study. I like Jillian Robertson too. Okay, I gave my full take on Jillian in the Discord last night. Mackenzie. People love Mackenzie. Tail versus Raleigh. Cody, I think you're correct. Plus, I know which girl I would take if feet. Just food for thought. Raleigh got to get a knockout to win. Johnny Zarafa. I know. We can't make money on these money lines right now, boys. We have to get sexy with the props. I was fortunate enough to get Zarafa, I think, at $1.10. But that type you gotta play a prop. I think Zarafa, if you could get the knockout prop, probably play it. Raleigh will win or draw. Teo bruises too easily. Raleigh got bricks. My issue with Teo isn't the bruising, isn't Raleigh's power. It's two big things. Teo fighting at 147. I think in boxing, the super super lightweight to welterweight jump, 7 pounds doesn't sound a lot. And I know that Raleigh came up as well to make 147. It's not like Raleigh was a 154 guy coming down. That jump for me, Teo not, fighting there, and then the psychology of the fight. Teo got exposed against Shakur. It looked like crap. He didn't even make it look. He didn't even make it look close. It kind of shows you how good Zepeda is. The fight no one's talking about that I think we're gonna have a lot to talk about is Zepeda versus Abdullah. Boy, how dare you, dude? Come on, Zepeda versus Abdullah, dude. Unification. That is the secret word in our sport. Unification. I would take Teo to beat Raleigh by decision. Every fought Shakur has bounced back and won. Josh Pally, Zepeda. We need look. Depth. That's a stat that I get down to. That's a JSB stat. But I think in order for a stat to have any sort of prevalence, we need a little bit more deeper of a pool than just the two examples. Okay. What did Edwin De Los Santos look like in his last fight? I'm just playing devil's advocate. Do you like? Yeah, I'm taking Malumba. I'm taking Malumba based off of his fight with Rahiki in the Contender, based off the success he was having against Rahiki, based off of Rahiki's trajectory and how he's looked since. And He's fighting Tommy Guns in September. I think he's going to use. He's 5'7". His opponent's 6 feet tall. Malumba's a pressure forward guy. I like the stats all about fighters who've been on the contender before and it's their second time around, and the percentage of those guys getting the W this time around. I think he's going to be aggressive. I think he's going to use his athleticism and explosivity. I think he's going to swarm him, and I like him in this spot. The Luque shit they talking about happened years ago, and since has moved up in weight and been on a bit of a streak. Okay, damn out here just leveling the playing field. The boss Christos Malumba has fought higher level comp. He can put a heavy pace. He's perfect. That's what I see too. I agree. Zarafa has no chin. Interested in Johnny Seg Zarafa. Well, it's not that it's not that Zarafa doesn't have a chin, and it's not that he's nothing special. He's already 34 years old. He's fought at the world level before. Every time we've seen him step up and we've seen him fall short. But you gotta look at Zarafa as two different mixed Zarafas. Mixed Zarafa at the world level, mixed Zarafa at the Aussie domestic level. Two different things. Mix Zarafa at the Aussie domestic level, boy, that dude is a knockout artist. Look up, find the tape, dude. Trust me on that. The minute Zarafa feels this dude is a rhythm slugger, that's what I call him. He's a rhythm slugger. The minute he feels he is not in danger and that he could be the hammer, he's going for a knockout. And we've seen it time and time again. I've seen it. So, it's just the taste that's left in the international boxing community's mouth are those fights when he gets stopped against Lara, or he gets stopped. He's been stopped multiple times on the way up. Who is the other kid? But the fights that nobody talks about are the fights that he's supposed to win. He's supposed to win this fight. I'm not even sweating this fight. This is a kid who is a clubber from Venezuela, Colombia. Inflated record. I think Samaki Bakary, shout out to my boy, who I feel got robbed. He should be fighting for the world title, not the Albanian sniper. Anyway, that's a whole nother chat to have. Samaki fought Zarafa's opponent. It was his only step up, and he got starched. I think Zarafa starches him. Zarafa won't lose, handpicked. He just sounded, yeah. This is where, guys, we are a betting community, right? So it's important to always keep in mind, no matter what a fighter has looked like at their worst or what a fighter has looked like at their best, we must always strategically break down the bet that's in front of us. You know what I'm saying? The fight that's in front of us. Why is this fight made? Who is this fight taking place with? Who is the promoter? What country is this fight in? That should always be the perimeter of what we focus on. Well, yeah, it's important to watch the tape. It's important to know their journey. It's important to know, what their win-loss record is. But even more important, that's the outside circle. The inside circle is everything I said first. Why is the fight being made? Who's the promoter? Where's the fight? That sort of thing. Shawnee, does Connor Wallace have a shot against Whitaker? Look, man, I gotta be honest with you, man. I've watched Connor's whole trajectory. I've watched his rise. I know how hungry he is. I know how much it means to him. And, we've watched Ben since he turned over. We watched Ben struggle before. We watched the adjustments he's made since the coaching change and what Andy Lee has meant to him, both tactically and psychologically. And my heart is with Connor. It'd be a great win for Connor Wallace in Irish-Australian boxing. There's a huge Irish-Australian settlement here that started with, was it MTK Global and the rest that were made in 2015? And guys who came over were like Dennis Hogan came over. Who's a real gritty kid? They all fought out of Bondi Boxing Club with Tony Delvecchio. Dennis Hogan was one of the leaders there. World champion guys too. And Connor Wallace was part of that wave, and he's still around. And this is his chance. And good record. Connor's going to be a little bit stiffer, a little bit slower, a little bit easier to hit, that sort of thing. But, it's going to be like, what sort of fight could Connor Wallace make this? Could he keep it competitive early enough to make Ben question himself? Can he keep it competitive early enough to get it to the mid-rounds, to make the ghosts of Liam Cameron come back, that Liam Cameron first fight? So it's going to be interesting. I know that Connor's going to be prepared. Here we go. Connor will get started. There you go. You have your answer. What's up, Kristen? I used the same gym, and they're all great guys, but he's doing nothing well. Perfect. There you go. I try to be fair here. You know what I'm saying? Try to be fair here. Who's the kid? Who's the kid that I'm thinking of who fought part of that Irish Australian wave? We talked about him all. There's Pat Doherty. Anyway, I'll see you guys tomorrow. I got to run. Hour and a half. Best community in the world, man. JSB Insiders. Let's go. Ryzen tonight in the Discord. If you're betting Ryzen MMA, we'll be streaming it in the Discord. Tomorrow, Dana White Contender Series, and then the Australian card. Stay tuned.